Welcome back, everyone. Information with JeffLightsyJr. here. I have a special guest, Mr. Tolly Carr. You've seen him, HBCU Day. You've seen him doing things, hosting for the SWAC, and all across the HBCU landscape. Mr. Tolly Carr, how's it?
Hey Jeff, how are you, man? Thanks for having me, and enjoy your work online. You do a great job, so it's a really big day for me to be hanging out with you.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It really do. It really does mean a lot. Now, Tolly, I want to ask you, man. We're getting closer and closer and closer to the start of the football season. It is as hot as it is here. I can't tell that it's fall, but fall is here, and we're just a few short weeks out uh, to getting started with games. What are you, Tolly Carr, most looking forward to, whether it's specific games to this upcoming football season?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting in the SWAC. Being an East Coast guy for the first 40 years of my life and moving to Atlanta about 10 years ago, I find it funny that I'm now all about the SWAC when I grew up on the CIAA and the MEAC. But with 12 unique teams, 12 rabid fan bases, the SWAC just never disappoints in terms of interest. And, it's shaping up this year to be a potential chalk year because people are saying, hey, Jackson State and Southern, they're going to run it back. A lot of people are excited about the new running back room at Southern, and they're kind of that, ground and pound defensive minded team behind Terrence Graves, one of my classmates from Winston-Salem State 8,000 years ago. So I think that's going to be interesting. Will it go chalk in the SWAC, or will guys like Sam Shade, new at Alabama A&M, will he bring over the same magic that he had at Miles? Will Alabama State? People aren't talking about Andrew Body anymore after 2 injuries. It's like, okay, Andrew Body just doesn't exist. Like, what if he came back in a reclamation year? Without the hype, without the headlines, not that plays any role in whether or not you get injured, but really turns out to be the key player that offense was missing last year. We just never know. Prairie View has made a lot of noise. I saw you took some exception to the belt they were claiming from from their social media. You had some issues with that, Jeff. But look, whoever won social media, that doesn't really matter. You got to get it done on the field. And Tremaine comes over there after a big run at Valdosta State. Like, what will he do? So it's going to be interesting. Always looking forward to the SWAC, but I think all the conferences will have some very heated races that will come down to November, and we're still trying to figure out like who's going to be in the Celebration Bowl, who's going to the D2 playoffs. So I think it'll be an interesting year in that regard.
Yes, I 100% agree with you that there's so many things, so many storylines all across the spectrum, from, like you said, the CIAA to the SWAC to the MEAC and SIAC, all of these places, all of these schools, all of these programs, kind of having their own storylines and own pockets there. I want to focus on the SWAC for a second, because you talked about the chalk that a lot of people seem to think it's kind of going to take place. Like Southern, that running back, adding a young man from LSU that already turning heads in camp, really making his presence felt. You get Coach T.C. Taylor at Jackson State looking to repeat, not just as SWAC champions, but to go win it again at the Celebration Bowl. Outside of like Southern and Jackson State, who would you say is probably the dark horse to challenge for that SWAC title if it isn't one of those two?
Well, you look over in the East. What is FAMU going to do? They were last season coming off a Celebration Bowl championship and started out the year pretty strong. Solid quarterback play, had some very dynamic wide receivers, and then FAMU just hit the wall last year, and it really was kind of capped off with that amazing loss to Mississippi Valley State at home. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Colsey comes back in his second year. And look, there's lots of things happening at FAMU. There's never any shortage of headlines coming out of Tallahassee. But will that benefit the football team? Because a lot of the talk and a lot of the things that people are, buzzing about doesn't have a lot to do with the football team. No fault of their own, but does that maybe alleviate a little bit of pressure and possibly put FAMU in a position of coming under the radar? They're they're selected again as one of the top teams. Alabama A&M, when Connell Maynor was there, he was let go after last season.
Mhm.
That was a team that was always offensively, one of the better
Yes.
teams in the league. Defensively, they couldn't get it together, and they would win one, lose one, win one, lose one. What did Sam Shade do with that culture and that personnel there? So I would not write either of the Alabama teams off. Alabama State as well. They had that strong defense last year. Now it's flipped. They lost the majority of their starters from that, top defense in the
Yeah.
SWAC, one of the top defenses. But they're returning a lot of people on offense, and the offense had everything they needed last year except for a quarterback. I think they played 5, 6.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
they got down to the end of the year. The guy who started the year at wide receiver was the quarterback. But I teased it a little earlier, man. If Andrew Body plays this year, he's still on the roster. He's still practicing. If he has a healthy year, the kid didn't forget how to play football. He's just dealt with injuries. So, coming out of the Magic City Classic, we might have an idea if either of those two Alabama schools there in the SWAC will be in it. And then when you go out west, Grambling,
Mm.
look, they make a lot of noise. I
They do.
really like their coach. He
I
demands
do
a
too.
lot out of his quarterback. They were inconsistent last year. Will this be the year where the G can put it together and put a first half and a second half together? And again, Prairie View A&M. We don't know we know the type of coach that Tremaine is, but will he put it all together with the personnel, or will he need another year? I'm not going to quite say Texas Southern is my dark horse, but I will say Chris Dishman is an interesting. He's an interesting coach. He's an interesting personality. He never really gets caught up in the moment. He always seems like his focus is beyond, and not in an aloof way, but he just doesn't get caught up in the hype and the media and the rivalries. He is just like laser focused on football, and his players really seem to love him. So, they'll be interesting. I wouldn't put them in my dark horse, but I would say look out for the Alabama schools along with FAMU, and Prairie View will probably be the team that probably after the first month we'll know, hey, these guys are for real, or it might be another year. But man, I still say they were doing it on social media, Jeff.
Yeah, they do. They like their social media. They brought in a ton of players, Prairie View, that is, to kind of revamp that roster, really challenge for the throne. And as much as I picked on them about the social media things, I just didn't think it was true. I do like the swagger though. Like I do like the confidence that Coach Tremaine has come in there and in kind of giving them, because he's almost like, and this is no disrespect to the previous coach, but he's almost the anti-Bubba McDowell. Like Bubba McDowell was kind of cool, calm, reserved, whereas Coach Tremaine is like, hey, like this is what we do. Like we're Prairie View, and we're gonna shout it to the mountaintops. We're gonna let everybody know that we're here to challenge any and everyone that thinks they're as good as us in the SWAC, and I like that.
Yeah, but it all comes down to how those rosters, when you got a lot of new moving parts,
Mm-hmm.
it's how that cohesion will work. I mean, you remember that
Mm-hmm.
year? God, it's probably been a decade or more ago when the Philadelphia Eagles signed everybody, and
Yeah.
they were just supposed to be that super team that would go straight to the Super Bowl. And while they had all that individual talent, it never really meshed, and it
Mm-hmm.
was turned out to be a big disappointment. And then you get an Eagles team, that goes on to win later with a roster that you didn't think would do
Mm-hmm.
that, and they go on a run. So cohesion and chemistry will play a part. Football is that's why we love it so much. Basketball, look, you can get one or two dogs in there that can turn a team
Mm-hmm.
around overnight.
Yeah.
But football, no, you need talent, but just as equally as important is how that talent plays together and gels and fits on the field.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Tolly Carr of HBCU Game Day. You're going to see Tolly all across SWAC platforms, covering games, calling games as an analyst. And you brought up the Philadelphia Eagles, and I want to change gears a little bit or these conferences a little bit to the MEAC, because they've got two additions that come from the Philadelphia Eagles in Mr. Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson, taking over programs that needed some new blood, right? Like Delaware State only winning 2 games the previous 2 years. Norfolk having their troubles with Dawson Odoms when he was there. What are your expectations of the newbies over in the MEAC when it comes to the pro football players taking over those programs?
Jeff, I think we have a large enough sample size now to say that these guys who come in with NFL experience, who played at the highest level, actually don't do a bad job as first-time college coaches. Look, there was a lot of speculation. How would Coach Prime work out? He had coached a long time, in youth leagues and in high school, but hadn't coached college. I would say that's working out pretty good. Eddie George was just sitting at home, like, what was he? He was doing
Broadway. He was accounting. Yeah, he was like in finance. He was in
Yeah.
finance and doing Broadway.
Yeah, he was enjoying his life. They had to talk him into the Tennessee State job, and he has since parlayed that into the job at Bowling Green. And you saw, it just took a couple of years, but once he got it there, he really built some consistent winning there at Tennessee State in the last couple of years. So I haven't really seen, again, a large enough sample size where we can start to make our own kind of educated assumptions of what might happen in the future. But I haven't really seen an NFL guy come in, especially high profile ones like Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick, and fall flat on their face. So until I see that, I would have to give them the benefit of the doubt that their knowledge of the game, their connections, their resources, their marketability all play into the favor of HBCUs. Now, the MEAC is different than the SWAC.
Yes.
You can have one bad game in the MEAC. You cannot have two because there are so few teams, just 6 there, that, look, a bad game, you can be out of it. The best team doesn't necessarily win the MEAC. A bad loss at the wrong time will put you out of the race. So how will they do? I think they're appropriately picked. I would give Deshaun Jackson a little more respect than last place, but I'm not arguing with South Carolina State at the top. Chennis Berry might not be a household name across America, but we saw what he did at Benedict College, getting that team to the Division II playoffs, winning the SIAC. First year at South Carolina State, he got them to the Celebration Bowl. So I'm not going to downgrade him just because someone with a bigger name comes in. And look, Trey Oliver loves the challenge.
Yes, he does.
He loves the challenge of being disrespected. He loves the challenge. We saw he was the first coach to beat Coach Prime there in the Celebration Bowl. He got that win, and he savored that moment. He understood how the narrative was going into that game. So he's not going to be awestruck, and he's not going to back down from a challenge. So I think the MEAC predictions at the beginning of the year were fair, and I wouldn't argue against it. Maybe Deshaun Jackson will do a little better. He's got a pretty nifty quarterback, again, on paper. So we'll see how it works out. But I think Michael Vick will have Michael Vick is interesting because he is famous.
Yes.
Behind, I often ask myself, he doesn't have the personality of Deion Sanders, but I often ask myself, who's more popular football-wise? Like, I kind of feel like Deion
depends
Sanders.
On who you ask. I think in that question, it depends on who you ask. Because I think, I'm 29. Michael Vick's more famous to 29-year-olds than Deion Sanders. Now, Deion Sanders has made this new wave as a football coach. I think this has helped him. But if before going to Jackson State, and even now, Michael Vick is like a lot of people my age, their idol, right? Like it's why they wanted to play football, why they wanted to wear number 7 when they got their first Madden game 20 years ago. Michael Vick was on the cover. So when you ask that question, Michael Vick now is someone older, like my dad's age or whatever. Obviously, is Deion Sanders, but to a lot of folks, it's Michael Vick.
How old is your dad?
My dad's in his 60s.
Okay, yeah. So I'm 50. And so I got a chance to see both of them throughout their entire college careers. But it is a question that I just can't automatically answer and give you yeah, absolutely. Because I'm like, man, Coach Prime he was something. But man, Michael Vick, he he was something too. I think Michael Vick had some advantages just where technology was with the Madden game and the things that come along with that. And you go back and watch, Deion Sanders highlights. You're like, ooh, that was before HD. It's in a little square box. That hits a little different. But and I say all that to say, you know, however long Michael Vick will be there, let's just say he's there 3 or 4 years. He might retire there. I don't know. But like Michael Vick coming into your living room of, the peers of you and me and people that kind of fall in between, like that's a big thing. Although
Yeah.
now it all depends on how much money you got, but I'd still still feel like his name carries a lot of weight there when it comes to recruiting. Obviously,
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with you. And I think, like you said, I think they're accurately picked, right? Because it is, although to your point, the uber celebrity, coaches that come from the NFL with no coaching experience haven't necessarily fallen on their face, but it really depends. Year two is really when they got it going. So that's why I'm saying, like, year one isn't one. Like Prime's year one was a spring, it was a little weird, and then that fall he got Shador, and then obviously we know where it happened with Eddie George. That first year, how to get some things. Then he got his quarterback, and then he got it going, right? Like then he got it. To me, he kind of got it going. I think year one is kind of like your beta stage. You're trying to figure things out when it comes to Michael Vick at Norfolk, when it comes to Deshaun Jackson at Delaware State. I definitely think Delaware State will win more than one game, right? Like that's something they haven't only done the last 2 years. But I think year two, and with a quarterback that they go out there and recruit, that they can pitch on their system, the way they're going to run things, with the year of actually having tangibles on the field, like, hey, this is how we run it. This is what led us astray. This is how you can come in and help us, is how I think they'll be able to bounce back. But to your point, I think Trey Oliver and North Carolina Central is the team to beat there in the MEAC. I know you said he was the first one to beat Prime, but it was actually South Carolina State and Buddy Pugh. They got Prime first. Yeah. They got Prime first. But Trey Oliver, I think he, to your point, losing those 1 games really does a lot of damage to you. And I think the last couple of years, his team has lost 1 game in the MEAC that essentially cost them a spot in the Celebration Bowl. And I think he really likes his quarterback. He's been in that program for years and years. I really like what Central should be able to do. Once again, on paper, what they should be able to do this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's funny. When I was saying that, I was thinking in my mind, did South Carolina State win first or was it Central? Look, that's the part about being 50, man. Some of these years starting to run together. You get them transposed. But yeah, and the other thing about recruiting is not only using your fame and marketability to get good players. These guys also bring in good coaches because of their relationships, and they bring in those guys with that NFL experience. And look, it's not only about the X's and O's, it's understanding like how an NFL practice runs, like getting the most out of your players, how that rest, recovery, and not to say that those college coaches don't know that, but I don't know, when you do things at the highest level, you don't forget how those things go. And I think all these coaches across the league are talented, but when you can get guys who have been there at the highest level and have received coaching from coaches at the highest level, you would think that some of that just runs downhill to your current program.
Absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Tolly Carr, college football analyst, HBCU analyst. Tolly, I want to ask you, you've been in this space for a long time. Over the last, we've seen it evolve and grow in different ways over the last 5 years or so. Do you like the direction that HBCU football specifically is going when it comes to getting coaches like Eddie George, Deion Sanders, now Deshaun Jackson, Michael Vick, with these celebrity names, LaShawn McCoy being a part of the ESPN broadcast at the MEAC Media Days? Are you a fan of this? As someone who is an HBCU grad, who's been in this space, is this something that you like? And do you see this continuing moving forward?
I do like it because not everyone does it. Some of the schools are going to do it. Look, go right now. Go to Central State's website and look at their football roster and coaches. They have made an all-in effort that look, they're getting guys in there with that NFL experience.
Mhm.
I think it's good for a couple of reasons. Because over time, we have seen the black athlete go to PWIs, go to the NFL, make a lot of people a lot of money.
Mhm.
And for a lot of those guys, when they're done, the opportunities to get into coaching haven't been as abundant as other people. Now, man, I don't have the data other than this is how I've seen it
Mhm.
throughout the years. So I like that HBCUs are offering up this opportunity. I think it serves the kids, it serves the institutions, because we're at a stage right now where technology has allowed smaller organizations across the world, not only in football and sports, and not only talking about black or white here, but you're able to scale your product and reach people in a way that we were not able
Mhm.
to do on an equal basis in the analog age. When we were solely dependent upon newspaper and television coverage, HBCUs, FCS schools, D2 schools, they were always going to come second, third, fourth. They're not going to compete with the SEC, the ACC. But now, if you can put a product out there on your own distribution points, and it's good, there's
Mhm.
no ceiling. So I think guys like Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson, Coach Prime, Eddie George, all these guys, when they come in, if they can kind of bring in some of those casual fans and get them emotionally invested. Look, when Coach Prime was at Jackson State, I'm reading the comments on our content covering the team, and there's people from across the world who are like,
Mhm.
I've never heard of these kids. I had no idea who they were, but now I'm emotionally invested. Like, some
Mhm.
people were openly questioning because this was such a new experience for them. Why do I care about this kid that I don't even know who he is? I'm just like all caught up in the Jackson State experience, and that's a hard act to follow, obviously, with everything that Coach Prime brings. But look, Norfolk State is going to have fans that they otherwise would not have had.
Mhm.
They're not going to lose any fans. Delaware State is going to have fans that they otherwise would not have had. They shouldn't lose any fans. And I know there's a lot of talk from coaches. I won't put people's name out there, but I know coaches who are like, "Hey, man, we worked hard all of our
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
Uh, these people are taking our opportunities. Look,
Yeah,
half the
kinda skipping the
schools,
line, kinda skipping
yeah,
the line type of thing.
yeah.
Mhm.
Not everyone's doing it, so you'll get your chance. Trey Oliver got his chance. Buddy Pugh got his chance, and I think that it added a little extra to those Celebration Bowl wins, not only because they won the
Mm.
game, but because of who they beat.
Mhm.
And with Coach Prime losing 2 years back to back there in the final game at Jackson State. So uh, I think it's just part of competition. These guys are competitors. They can't spend a whole lot of time complaining about the change in the circumstances. They've dealt with that in sports their entire life. They're guys on their team and the transfer portal and say, oh, wait, you got this kid from LSU now, and no, the love's not the same.
Mhm.
It's how the game goes, and it's that way for everybody. So you just have to prove yourself in the arena, and I think the addition of these coaches just helps sharpen the skills, sharpen the resume, sharpen the wins, and it makes the games matter a little more. And that's
Mhm.
what you want to do in order to elevate your product. And HBCUs have always been in an ongoing effort to elevate their product. And I think this kind of chemical mixture helps accelerate that process.
Absolutely, and as someone who I'm not an HBCU grad, but what I can say is that influxing these coaches, like you said, you shouldn't lose any of your fans. You're gonna gain new ones, and it highlights your school. I mean, I get it. They're watching, they're tuned in for a coach, for a football team or whatever. But like now, once I say the name Norfolk State or Jackson State or Grambling State or whatever, now I'm like, oh, what is so special about this school? Like, what made this coach go there? And then now you're educating, the masses, right? People that may be ignorant to what your school has meant to that community, has meant to that state, has meant to that city, has meant to Black history, right? Or whatever the case may be. I think that's the good thing about it, because you're now opening the eyes of people, like you said, not just in the country, but around the world, to your institution, and allows you to put your institution on a platform that maybe it would not have had. So I am a big fan of it, and I really, really love that part of it, because now when Prime does go to Jackson State, you realize Jackson State has 3 Pro Football Hall of Famers. Like, I didn't know that. Like, oh, Jackson State has this. Or when, Michael Vick goes to Norfolk, oh man, like Norfolk, like that's done some really, really powerful things in the community there. Or it's really, really meant a lot to, Black college history and just Black American history and all these different things. So I that's the part that I love, outside of just them being able to put a successful football product on the field.
Yeah, and when you look at where we are right now, these teams and conferences have been able to elevate. The SWAC has come out with SWAC TV,
Mm-hmm.
their own platform. ESPN has kind of pulled back on the amount of volume of the coverage, which has opened up other opportunities for people like HBCU Go and for the conferences to do their own thing. And again, you need a force multiplier to go with that. So you get the distribution, but now you need the scale. You need the product to fill those distribution points. So anytime somebody can come in and help you accelerate to the place that you're trying to go anyway, I don't think anybody wants to get there any slower. And I've been around HBCUs all my life, and I remember look, people often talk about the NFL retread and how they don't like these coaches get fired and just show up at another place. HBCUs used to do that as well. Coach gets fired at this school, he shows up at that school. They deal with him for a couple of years, then he's over there, and there was just like this circle of recirculating HBCU coaches. I like the new faces and guys that come in and just have fresh ideas and see things differently, and they are new to the space, and they can add value from their life experiences to the programs.
Absolutely. Well, that is Tolly Carr. You can check Tolly Carr on games all fall covering. Tolly, who are you going to be covering this year? Are you going to be in the SWAC mostly? Or are you going to do so? What games are you on?
Well, I have one HBCU Go game that's going to be on August 30th, and that's going to be
Are you at the Vegas?
Benedict.
Oh.
No.
Okay, I thought you were going to.
I did not get the Charlie Neal. I did not get the Charlie Neal treatment. I'm still working on that. I have Benedict and Fayetteville State. That's going to be my first game of the year, and that's going to be a really cool SIAC CIAA matchup. Two teams who have won it in the recent history. Last couple of seasons they've won their respective conferences. Not last season, but in the last handful of seasons, both teams have been there. So that'll be a really cool matchup. And actually, one of my best friends in life, his son, is a senior and a big contributor on the Fayetteville State offense. So that'll be kind of a full circle moment. I remember when the kid was born, so I get a chance to call a game during his senior season. Caden Davis for Fayetteville. I mean, I'll keep it even. I won't play favorites, but it'll be cool to have that experience. And then around September, October, I start my SWAC. I say Slack because I use Slack at work all the time. That was not a dig. SWAC schedule. Me and Mo Carter are teamed up on about 5 or 6 games this year. So looking forward to getting around, man. Summer is over. It's time to get back on the road and smell the grass and watch the bands and get a free hot dog at halftime. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Well, that is Tolly Carr. You can catch him on your TV all fall, covering the SWAC, doing some stuff with HBCU Go. My name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. We'll be right back after the break.